All right, so I'm going to give you the story of Fair, and hopefully this is a story that communicates. Look, you got no excuses for just going making a film, because Fair was a film that we shot in 3 days for $5,000. It was written in a week. I had the idea on a Thursday. I spent all of the weekend thinking about it, mulling about it. On Sunday, I think I called Justin and I said, I got a crazy idea. I know we're trying to raise money for this other big film that we've written that will take, a month to shoot. We'll have to raise $1 million, $500,000. But what if we just make something real quick, just to get it done, just to make a prototype, just to say we've made a feature, to make something hopefully good enough that can get into festivals, that we can sell, we can learn the marketing side. It was sort of a prototype. Honestly, as a filmmaker, as an artist, I just had to go make something. I was like jumping out of my skin. I hadn't directed anything in I don't know how long, and I was like, I gotta go make something. I gotta go make a film. And I'm a guy who grew up in the theater, so I knew that you could sit down in a theater and watch a 90-minute story on a stage. So I sort of kind of intellectually knew we could come up with something, a guy in a house, a guy in a room, we could shoot something really quick, So he said, well, let's go for it. Yeah, let's give it a shot. We had some money in the bank, and we said, let's give it a shot. So I kind of had a concept, and that concept grew from, just approaching it like a play. And so I thought, all right, what's a story we could tell that we could shoot in a weekend for a few $1,000s? And that was really how it started. Looking at what I had, which was not a lot of time and not a lot of money, but could I make a film with that? So I thought, all right, a guy in a room. What could that story be? And that just sort of grew out from there. And by the end of a weekend, I had this idea of a guy, not in a room, but in a car. And not just one guy, but several guys. But the camera would never leave the car. That was the conceit. Part of it was just a self-imposed constraint to make it compelling, but I also knew if we're going to do this quickly and cheaply, we have to really build in a whole lot of constraints that force us to do something like this. And I thought if I could write something that's compelling enough, that's dialogue-driven, that we can sort of see a character's journey, then maybe we'd actually have something worth shooting that could actually get into festivals and maybe sell, because that was sort of the whole point. So I opened up Final Draft on a Monday morning, and by the end of that day, I had the first draft. Now, it was only 40-something pages, but it was a complete sort of arc. And by the end of that week, I had a much fuller first draft that I think was 60-something pages. I sent the script around to a few people, and by the end of the second week, maybe 10 days after I started writing it, I had the shooting script. I called up actors that I knew, that I had hired in the past, that I was friends with, that they didn't owe me a favor, but I think if I said, hey, I'm doing something for myself, I can't pay you, but we're only going to take a week of your time, what do you think? They all said I'm in. Same thing with the crew, with Chris Calnan, who was going to be my DP, who ended up not being able to do it for scheduling purposes, and RC and Jeff Walker with Lastoria Productions, who were already on board to help out. They stepped up. RC did an amazing job as cinematographer, and Jeff as the sound man. And as a film that is set completely in a car, RC and Jeff are sitting in the back of that SUV, in the trunk of that SUV for the entire shoot. And about 30 days after we had finished the script, we were filming. It was that fast. And we did it that fast in order to not second guess ourselves, in order to not chicken out, just to go for it and to do it. So we got the actors together. We rehearsed for a few days. I told everyone, look, the way to film this is to memorize everything, have all of our lines off book so that we can just get in that car, we can hit record, and we can just burn through pages. And I even told the actors, look, I realize this is a risk. This whole project's a risk. It's certainly an experimental type of film on many levels, not just in the shooting of it, but in the fact that you don't film a movie that you just wrote a month ago. Scripts take time, ideas take time. But that was sort of part of the fun. I had an idea that I thought was interesting and compelling, and it was something that I really wanted to take some crazy creative swings with, especially in the third act, and really try some things that, frankly, I would be too scared to try in a film that cost a lot of money, that had a lot of things riding on it. But when you can't take the creative risks in the $5,000 film, when can you? So we just jumped in, committed to the script, and we shot it all in 3 days. In fact, we did 30 pages in one 8-hour stretch. And the way you do it is you get 3 DSLRs and you suction mount them around the car, and that's what we did. We had access to Reds and bigger cameras, but I thought, you know what, this is only really going to be doable if we have simple, small cameras. We can get 3 angles at a time. So we would just set up the cameras, and me and the actors would just circle Charlotte and go through our lines. And at the end of that 3 days, we had a movie. There was a 4th day of doing some reshoots and pickup shots, a few weeks later. So all in, it was 4 full days of shooting. By the time we wrapped, I think our total budget on hard costs was $4,900. Crew deferred, cast deferred, and hard costs were really, really minimal. We had a movie, and it was the kind of movie that just turned out so much better than I thought, so much better than I'd hoped. If you're a filmmaker, then you're always dreaming about your first film, your debut feature, right? As if the independent world is waiting for you to debut. I had that same pretentiousness, and I was holding on to it, script after script, project after project. I'm like, no, this is going to be my first film. No, this is going to be my first film. By the time I came around to Fair and I was like, I just got to make a film. I don't care if it's any good. I got to get one out. It really stripped me of that pretentiousness. And I tell you, it was the best thing that could have happened, because not only did the film turn out to be something beautiful, a piece of art that I love and I'm proud of, maybe the thing I'm most proudest that I've ever done, but maybe it took that sort of stripped self-pretentiousness to really come up with something that was compelling, that had a voice. Didn't get into Sundance, didn't get into a top-tier festival, but it got into a lot of middle-tier festivals. It won awards at a lot of festivals. We found a sales rep who would rep the film. We cold called maybe 10. All of them said no except one, and the one that said yes isn't exactly a top heap sales rep. And but the plan was working. We were getting into festivals. We got amazing reviews from the film. And a sales rep the film. They then presented it to maybe 40 to 50 distributors, buyers. All but 3 of them said no. And it's a weird little experimental film, no budget film. But we had 3 distributors who said we were interested. We talked to each of them, and we went with the one that we thought would be best for the film. Another small distributor. But they released the film in February of 2017 to worldwide audiences on all the different video platforms. We didn't get a theatrical release. That wasn't something that I was even necessarily expecting. But we got on all VOD platforms. We're on Hulu and Prime for streaming services. We're releasing in new territories as we speak. Film's been out over a year. The film's made money. We've gotten to write checks to all the cast and crew that deferred. I've gotten to write checks to our initial investors, who gave us those first few $1,000s. Maybe 25 critics have reviewed the film, and I'd say of those 25, 20 of those reviews were just overwhelmingly positive. The LA Times reviewed it, and they reviewed it favorably. For what it was, for what we set out to do, the result of it has just been incredible to sort of see. And it's been an amazing thing for me to be able to pursue another film and have that in my track record. But it's something that we just did without second guessing it. We did it for a couple grand in a couple days. It's a testament to the pressure cooker that can really create something special, something artistic. Hopefully that's an inspiration to any of you who have an idea, who just want to get something done, or who don't have an idea. I didn't have an idea. My idea was to make a movie for $5,000 in a weekend. That was the idea. So I backed into that by just designing something in a really utilitarian way that I could do with those constraints. And honestly, the first idea was just a genre thriller. A guy in an Uber car who finds himself driving the man sleeping with his wife. It was just going to be kind of a pulpy little genre thriller. But then as I started writing it, all these things about marriage and love and betrayal started coming out of me, and it became something much more deep, much more of a comment on marriage and what it takes to remain committed. So just create a constraint for yourself with the things that you have and go make something, go do it. And go do it for its own sake, for the sake of art, but also to learn the parts of the business that you don't know. I had made short films that had been in festivals. I had done shorts that had broadcast on television. I knew the television side. I knew the short film side. I knew the feature side in sort of a tangential way. I had never made a feature. I had never toured festivals with a feature. I had never talked to sales agents. I had never talked to distributors. I never had a film released to a paying audience. All those things I got to experience and learn about firsthand because we just decided we were going to go for it with this thing. And we did it, and I'm so proud we did. I love this little film.